Hey guys, we're going to be doing our second video lesson together. So today is going to be 1.9, evaluating expressions. It's not very different from what you've been doing. We're just going to combine order of operations to find the value of certain expressions. So what is an algebraic expression? An algebraic expression is an expression that contains one or more variables. And we've talked about variables before. So hopefully everybody remembers what those are. Things like x, y, a, b. Basically anything that fills in the place of some number that we don't know. To evaluate, all you're going to do is substitute the variables with their given values. Then you're going to follow the order of operations. Remember PEMDAS that we talked about in the last lesson. Remember, you need to be writing down everything I'm writing down for your note check. Also, if you need to pause this or review something, you can. If you have a question, all you have to do is pause it and raise your hand or message me on Classcraft, and I will help you out and be right over. Remember, you can review things if you need to and go back and rewind. If you need to go back and look at the order of operations video from 1.8, you can do that as well. So, directions, always important. Evaluate each expression using the variable replacements. What they've done for number 1 is they've told you that x is equal to 5 and y is equal to negative 3. Now, when you're showing your work, you have to show your work for these. And I'm going to show you exactly how your work should look. Your work should look just like mine. Whenever we substitute a value in for a variable, we're going to put a parentheses around it. So, for example, for this one, it's going to be 7. If x is equal to 5, where there's an x right here, we're going to put 5 plus 4 times y, and y is equal to negative 3. If your work doesn't look like this, you're not going to get any credit for it. I want to make sure that you're showing your work the same way. This helps us keep track of our negatives. It helps us keep track of the order of operations. Now we're going to do order of operations, multiplication parentheses. 7 times 5 is 35. Plus 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. This is just 35 minus 12. 35 minus 12 is 23. Remember, we're going to box in our answers. Not too bad. Now I've circled number 2. I want you to do the same thing. You're going to circle number 2. We're going to come over to number 3. For this one, they've got that m is equal to negative 2. So all we're going to do is plug in negative 2 wherever there's an m. We're going to put parentheses around it. Notice that this is an exponent here. You're going to put that exponent right there next to it. Make sure that your negative 2 is in parentheses. Remember, whenever we substitute a value in for a variable, we put parentheses around it. Plus 5, negative 2. Order of operations. So the first thing we're going to do is our parentheses and exponents. So 4. Negative 2 squared is this. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. Plus 5 times negative 2. 5 times negative 2 is negative 10. 4 times 4 is 16. Plus negative 10, which is just minus 10, is equal to 6. Box in your answer and you're done. Not too bad. Now I want you to circle number 4. Circle number 5, and we're going to go over to number 6. That's an absolute value sign. Same rules apply. So 2, we've got r is equal to negative 5 and s is equal to 4. So we're going to do 2. We've got the brackets. The negative 5 goes inside. Minus 3. This is important. Pay attention to your variables. So r is negative 5 times, we also have that s, so 4. Now we're just going to simplify. Remember that absolute value brackets count as parentheses when you're evaluating order of operations. So 2 times the absolute value of negative 5. The absolute value of negative 5 is just 5. So 2 times 5 minus 3 times negative 5 times 4. Now we can do order of operations, multiplication left to right. So 2 times 5 is 10 minus 3 times negative 5 times 4, because they're in parentheses. Negative 5 times 4 is negative 20. 10 minus 3 times negative 20 is negative 60. Now if we rewrite this, remember if we subtract a negative, what that really is a positive. So it's going to be 10 plus 60, which is going to be equal to 70. Box in your answer and you're done. Now come down to number 7. We've got w is equal to negative 4 and v is equal to 1. We're going to do the same thing we always do. We're going to plug in our variables, our values in for our variables, and put parentheses around. Notice that w minus v has an exponent. Just make sure you just insert everything in exactly as it says. So negative 4 minus 1 squared plus 2 times 1 minus 7 times negative 4. Now we need to evaluate things in parentheses first. So negative 4 minus 1 squared plus 2 times 1. All I've done is rewritten it so that you can see how I substituted things in. Now I'm going to evaluate my parentheses first. Remember, we have to do parentheses before exponents. And when we talk about parentheses, we're talking about operations in parentheses. Here, this is multiplication, 2 times 1. Even though the 1's in parentheses, it's multiplication. Here we've got an operation going on inside the parentheses. That's where the parentheses, that's what we're talking about parentheses, what we mean. So we need to evaluate that first. So negative 4 minus 1 is just negative 5. So negative 5 squared plus 2 times 1, remember order of operations, 2, 1, minus 7 times negative 4. Exponents next. Negative 5 squared. Negative 5 squared, remember, is negative 5 times negative 5, which gives me a positive 25. So positive 25 plus order of operations, multiplication is next. So 2 times 1 is 2, minus 7 times negative 4 is negative 28. Now I'm running out of room, and that's okay. You're going to have more room when if you need to attach a separate sheet of paper, if you need to write in the back of your notes or in the margins, that's fine. So now I'm just going to rewrite my equation because I can't subtract a negative, so I need to change that to a positive 28. Now, I do addition or subtraction left to right, whichever comes first. So left to right, 25 plus 2 is 27, plus 28 is equal to 55, and that is my final answer. Now circle number 8, and we're going to go to the next page. I want you to circle number 9, and we're going to move to number 10. And these look a little crazy, but they're going to be fine. So, the same thing, no matter how complicated they get, just take it one step at a time. First, so remember, first, you plug in your variables, and then you just follow order of operations like before. Remember, your final answer should be a value. So, for number 10, p is equal to 10, so I'm just going to rewrite everything. So 3, and I'm going to plug in my variables, times 10, 3p, minus q, which is 14. All of that's under a radical. Pay attention to where the radical stops. Minus p squared plus pq. I wanted to make sure that I drew attention to this. So now I'm going to finish plugging in my variables. So 3 is 10 minus 4 minus p squared, which is 10 squared, plus 10 times 14. Now remember, radicals in terms of order of operations counts as an exponent. Now, I just realized I made a mistake back here. So I put 4 here instead of 14. So I'm going to go back and do 14. See, like, even I make mistakes. So what you have to do is double check to make sure you're putting in the right value, because it makes a difference. So it's minus 14, not 4. So 30 minus 14 is going to be 16. minus 10 squared, which is just 100, plus 10 times 14, which is 140. We need to evaluate everything under the radical first because it counts as an exponent. So the square root of 16 is 4 minus 100 plus 140. Then we do order of operations left to right. So 4, remember, if the subtraction comes first, left to right, that's what we start with. So 4 minus 100 is negative 96 plus 140. Negative 96 plus 140 is 44. Now I want you to circle 12, 14, and 16. We're going to come back to number 11. Number 11, remember when we have something where we have a numerator denominator, we simplify the numerator first and then the denominator. But first thing we need to do is we need to plug in our variables. So 2 times a, which is 3, times b, which is 12. All over 7 times b, which is 12, minus a squared, which is 3, so 3 squared, times b, which is 12. Not too bad. So now I'm going to simplify each. Remember, order of operations in the numerator, order of operations in the denominator. So 2 times 3 is 6, so 6 times 12 up top. Underneath, we've got 7 times 12, but we're not going to deal with that first because we've got an exponent. So 7 times 12 minus 3 squared and 12. So 6 times 12 is 72. So 72 all over order of operations in the denominator. 7 times 12 we can't deal with first because we got this exponent. So 7 times 12 is going to be here, minus 3 squared is 9 times 12. Now we have to do is our multiplication. So 7 times 12 is 84, minus 9 times 12, which is 108. 84 minus 108 is negative 24. Remember, left to right makes a difference. We wouldn't have that negative number. 72 divided by negative 24. Now, if this didn't divide evenly, we would need to simplify our fraction, but it does. 24 goes into 72 3 times. So because it's a positive number divided by a negative number, it's going to be negative 3 times. Remember, if you have any questions, just pause the video and raise your hand or send me a message. Better yet, send me a message on Classcraft. I want you to circle number 14 and number 16. The only way we get better at these is practice. I also want you to circle number 13. We're going to go to number 15. So number 15, 3/4 times c. C here is 2/9, so we need to put 2/9 right here. Minus 1/6 times d, which is just negative 4. This looks a lot scarier than it is. So we're going to do order of operations, which means multiplication is first. Remember, when we multiply fractions, we multiply across the numerator and then the denominator. So 3 times 2 is 6, all over 4 times 9, which is 36, minus 1/6 times negative 4. Remember, that 4 is really over an invisible 1. So 1 times negative 4 is negative 4 over 6. Now remember, we can't subtract a negative. We're going to have to change that to adding a positive. So 6 over 36 plus 4 over 6. Now, when we add fractions, we need to have a common denominator. But the first thing I see is I can simplify this to 1/6. This fraction right here. And I can do that before I add. That'll make my life a lot easier. Because 6 goes into 36 6 times, and 6 goes into 6 one time. So 1/6 plus 4/6. And for those of you that that need a little quick refresher, if I simplify this and I divide both the numerator and the denominator by 6, I get 1 over 6. So now they have a common denominator, so I don't have to do anything other than simplify it. So 1 plus 4 is 5 over 6. Box in my answer, and I'm done. Now what I want you to do is do all the problems that we circled but haven't completed. Do all the problems that we circled but haven't completed. If you have questions, all you have to do is send me a message on Classcraft. You should be doing this independently and quietly. The only way that you get better at these is lots and lots of practice. When you're done, send me a message on Classcraft, and I can tell you to bring your paper up and we can go over it to make sure that you have the correct answers. Remember, I need to initial off on your notes before you can move on.